is author of several books, very, very interesting, exciting books, Let's to Jack and Let's to Jill. Also is a lawyer. A lot of people don't realize or know that he's a lawyer, a polymath, a philanthropist, creative person. He inherited his creativity from his dad. I can tell that one specifically because his dad was even more creative than him, whether he likes it or not. His foundation supports 9 orphanages and has impacted the lives of over 150 individuals with food, medical, finance, and scholarship. An extremely generous man, very, very generous even to the kingdom of Christ, and so on and so forth. Please welcome with me my friend, my brother, Mr. Leke Alder. Leke, most welcome to this forum. I took some liberties introducing you, but there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, forgive me.
I will say, not because of you, but because I'm sure you know that. So God bless you, my brother. Thank you for accepting, like you always do, to speak on this forum and in our quest for this, our great nation, Nigeria, and to turn Nigeria around. And it's good to see you looking a bit brighter. Okay, and I'm going to come and confirm physically that you are back to back and back on the back. So we're speaking today on developing a viable nation, developing a nation that has viability, that has prosperity on the back burner, and that is going the way it should. Just before I came here, somebody sent me a video, gruesome video, of all sorts of killings and massacres all over Nigeria, especially in Western Nigeria, people's bodies here and there. Very, very, very terrible. And somebody was saying, we have never had it at this level before in Nigeria. You have commented on Nigeria publicly, privately, you've spoken, you've written books, you've written policy documents. You even have a book that spoke about the economic viability and economic potential of all the states and all the regions of Nigeria, saying that every part of Nigeria has some economic viability. But maybe before we go into developing a viable nation, what in your own thinking, what from your own perspective and from your own experience is really the problem with Nigeria? Why is Nigeria at a place where the naira is over 500 to the dollar, where things are so expensive? Everywhere I go, people are talking about the cost of foodstuff in the market and so on and so forth. A country where even to go down the road to camp or to Jebu, it's a big risk. You don't know what the security problem will be. What really, in your own perspective, do you think is the problem with Nigeria?
First of all, Pastor Ituah, I want to thank you for organizing this series. It's needful because as we are trying to shut down free speech in the country, the exchange of ideas becomes even more important because no nation develops without ideas. What is the problem with Nigeria? It's laziness in thinking. We're lazy. We don't want to do the hard work of thinking. And the second thing, that has produced quite a number of results. The first one is that it has produced extreme poverty. Let me put things in perspective, because sometimes, I'm a consultant and sometimes we talk anecdotally, but I want to show you our present budget, and just read out some figures to your listeners. The total budget is 13.08 trillion naira. Now, the non-debt recurrent costs is 5.6 trillion naira. That's 43.2% of the budget. The personnel cost is 3.8 trillion, is 28.7% of the budget. Pensions, gratuities, and retirees' benefits is 3.3% of the budget. Overheads is 4.8% of the budget. Debt service is 23.7% of the budget. If I take non-debt recurrent costs, personnel costs, pension, gratuities, salaries, overheads, and debt service. I'm already at 95.6% of the budget. Now remember, we're talking budget, we're not talking budget performance yet. So we don't know how well this budget is performing. What I'm just trying to point out is that we're in a vice and we're not going anywhere with this budget. And incremental gradualism is not going to work. This militarization of progress is not going to work. What you need is something that is very, very radical. And we're not going to get anywhere with the way we are doing. There are three things that I feel that have switched Nigeria. Number one is the fact that we run a federal illogicality. We say that we're a federation, but our economy, our thinking, our structure is unitary. And so we're not able to unleash the wealth and the capacities of the nation. The second one is what I call the demographic illogicality. There are 61.3 million Nigerians between ages 19 to 35, yet they are not represented in government. In fact, I'll give you the list of all the governors now. How many of them are under 50, how many are under 40, how many are under 60 something. And then thirdly, there's religious illogicality. And I'm sure you know about this, being a consultant yourself and a pastor. Nigerians love to pray for what common sense can solve. And so these three illogicalities are assailing us. And let me tackle the easiest one, the age one. In 1966, which is a pivotal year in the history of Nigeria, the following people, let me reel out their ages. And the reason I'm reeling out these ages is because you need fresh ideas. Old men will dream dreams of yesterdays, young men will see visions. The people that cast the vision for where we are now, which is an expired vision anyway, the people that cast that vision were in their 20s and 30s when they cast those visions. Let me read some of the ages, some of the people, some are controversial, but this is 1966 figures. Chukwuma Kaduna Nzegu was 29 at the age in 1966. Ademoyega was 32 in 1966. Muitala Mohammed was 28 in 1966. Danjuma was 28. Abba Kyari Major was 28. Mohamed Buhari was 24. Ibrahim Babangida was 25. Mama Vatsa was 26. Sani Abacha was 23. John Shagaya was 24. Chukwemeka Ojukwu was 33. Olusegun Obasanjo was 29. Emmanuel Ifeanyi was 32. Gado Nasco, Muhammadu Gado Nasco was 25. Abdullahi Shelling was 24. I'm saying that the people that cast the vision at the, where we are now, were in their 20s and 30s. In fact, by the time Gawan became president, he was only 31. He was a bachelor. But we have a situation in which we don't give opportunities to the young, and so don't allow fresh ideas to come in. Let me add to that by showing you the ages of the governors in 1918, so that you see where we are running into problems. Let's first start with the president. Except for the civilians, all the presidents that we had in Nigeria, all of them were either in their 30s or in their 40s. Aguiyi Ironsi was 42 when he became president. Gawon was 31. Murtala Muhammad was 37. Olusegun Obasanjo was 40. Muhammad Buhari was 41. Babangida was 43. The people that were old were Tafawa Balewa at 48, and that is old. Nnamdi Azikiwe at 59, and then Shehu Shagari at 54. Now, when we started recycling, the median age moved from the 30s and 40s, it moved into 50s, and then Shunekon was 57, Sani Abacha was 50 when he ascended. Abubakar was 56, Umar Yar'Adua was 56, Goodluck Jonathan was 53, and then it got worse. In 2018, 31% of our governors were in their 60s, 31%. That figure has gotten worse now because we had 3 years to their ages. Ajimobi, as it then was, the late Ajimobi, was 69 in 2018. Abdullahi Gandhi was 69 in 2018. Aminu Masari was 68. Umaru Tanko Al-Makura, and I could keep going on and on because I have the statistics. Godwin Obaseki, so again, 61% of the governors were in their 50s at that time. Now, of course, if you had 3 years to those ages, they moved to their 60s. So what happens is, what do you expect when people who struggle with mobile phones, who struggle with technology, who struggle with the perspective of the world, when they are running a nation and they are not allowing fresh ideas, fresh blood, fresh people to come in and young people to come in? Gordon Obaseki was 59 in 2018. Okowa was 59. Nasser El-Rufai was 58. Samuel Otom, the governor of Benue State, was 57. So it means that they are at 62, 61, and 60 right now. And it's going to get worse. There were only 3 governors in 2018 who were in their 40s. Abdul Aziz Yari of Zamfara State was 49. Ben Ayade of Cross River was 49. Yahya Bello was 43. Of course, they've advanced in age right now. So I'm saying that there's just something invidious about a nation that is not open to ideas and is not open to young men. And I'm not saying that ideas have to be the purview of young men only. I'm just saying that you tend to get good ideas and fresh ideas from the younger people because they are closer to the developments in the economy. And we've seen that in Nigeria. Now, what is the second illogicality? The second illogicality is the federating system that we run. We are not unleashing the potential of the states. Let me shock you with the mineral concentration in Nigeria. Let me give you the statistics because I'm a consultant. I need to use statistics, and I hope listeners can follow the things I'm saying. I can give you statistics of all the minerals state by state, all the 36 states of the Federation. But will it surprise you to know that there are more minerals in the north, not counting the middle belt, than in the south? There are 31 mineral resources in the north. Kaolin, rutite, limestone, columbite, cassiterite, fluorite, wolframite, gemstones, barite, clay, bentolite, coal, gypsum, magnet, silica sand, talc, feldspar, gold, kyanite, bismuth, silver, manganese, mica, iron ore, lithium, marble, lead, molybdenum, phosphate, diatomite, and zinc. These are 31 mineral resources in the north, but we're not talking about exploring these mineral resources. In the middle belt, you have 23. In the southeast, you have the least, which is 9. They have only clay, coal, limestone, zinc, kaolin, lead, fluorite, silver, and iron ore. Now, I consulted for the Ministry of Solid Minerals, and I can assure you that 9 is too much for a nation. Canada is the #1 mining destination in the world, and it has only 5 mineral resources. So we have a country that is overblessed, pampered, spoiled. It's a mineral dump, and yet there's poverty. And I'll reel out the poverty figures to you, but let me finish with the minerals. Southwest has 18 minerals, whereas the South-South has 13 minerals. Now, how is it possible, therefore, that a country that is so blessed with all these minerals, and we're not even talking about the progression of the minerals, the use of the minerals, and the industries that can arise from the use of those minerals. I have here a table of all what each state can do, all the industries that can set up with those minerals. Now, how is it possible? And you notice what I keep on saying, how is it possible? Because Nigeria begs it's incredulous. Nigeria begs incredulity. Sokoto has a poverty rate of 87.7%. That means for every 10 people that you meet, 8 people are in extreme poverty. How is that state ever going to be safe? Taraba has a poverty rate of 87.7%. Jigawa has 87%, Ebo 8%, Adamawa has 75.4%, Zamfara has 74%, Yobe has 72.3%. Now, is it surprising, therefore, that the state of insecurity is very high in those regions? So the states that have 80-something% as 3 states, 70-something% is 4 states, for 60-something%, you have 3 states, 50-something%, you have 6 states. The only states that are spared are the ones that have single digits, and they are not more than 5. In other words, when you look at the economic viability of the country, there's a problem. What we are doing is not going to work. We are waiting to tax the people, but that is internal revenue. Our GDP is low because we are not earning from abroad. And in order to be viable as a nation, you need to earn from abroad. And then you need to restructure the country in such a way that each region, and I'm not talking political regions now, I'm talking economic regions. I would rather divide the country into economic regions because I know that the issue of political regions is a very volatile issue in Nigeria. And I'm not a politician, I'm a statesman, and each region should be able to produce enough prosperity to more than power this nation. And there should be no poverty in Nigeria because it just does not make sense. Now, the third incongruity, which I quickly want to touch on, is religious incongruity. Nigerians are very religious, and I'm very sure as a pastor, you're very aware of this. But what we fail to realize is that all our prayer points, all the things that we pray about, are as a result of policy failure. The reason we all want to buy jeeps is because our roads are not good. The reason we send our children abroad because our schools are broken down. The reason there's a lot of medical tourism to India and Dubai and so many other countries is because our hospitals are down. Common sense dictates that if we solve our policy issues, 99.99% of our prayer points are gone. And when the prayers are gone, then maybe we can devote ourselves to things that are more viable and things that are more important to the world.
You empty the churches. I want those pastors do.
But do you see my frustration? Sometimes it's better not to know. Because when you the frustration is much.
Agents to populate the church. Oh my goodness.
Oh God.
Go ahead.
We have.
Just go ahead, we're enjoying you.
Okay. Now let me do something. I want to match what I will do. Is that I want to see if I can match each state, especially the poor states, to the mineral resources that they have. Let me see if I can have a chart here. Let me see if I can access the data.
You want to share screen or?
Prepare for that, but because I just want it to be a discussion, and but I want it to be backed by hard statistics, because sometimes when you talk, Nigerians think you are just jiving.
Okay. You will send us statistics later. I think it's books actually.
I'll give you the link. I'll give the listeners the link to these two articles that they can download for free. Okay.
Okay.
Sokoto State has a poverty rate of 87.7%, but Sokoto has limestone, phosphate, and clay. You can use these minerals for the production of building materials and fertilizer production. So you're asking yourself, where is there no fertilizer factory in Sokoto State? Zamfara has a poverty rate of 74%. It has barite, feldspar, gold, lead, zinc, clay, iron ore, lithium, manganese, and wolframite. It means all these minerals are used for electricity production, glass and ceramics production, production of decorative items, armor piercing, ammunition, building materials, yet Zamfara is poor. Taraba has a poverty rate of 87.7%, but it has barite, phosphate, and clay, which means it can produce building materials and do fertilizer production, yet this state is poor. How are these things possible? Jigawa can do glass manufacturing, production, and building materials. Kaduna can do paint production, electronics, road construction, armor piercing, ammunition, jewelry production. Kano can do paint production, electronics, road construction, armor piercing, ammunition, jewelry by another adornments. Kwara can produce alloy strengthening materials, production of electronic equipment, and I think when God was resting on the seventh day, he created Nigeria on that day and just decided to dump minerals in this nation. There is no nation, I'm convinced that there is no nation as blessed as Nigeria. It's just that we've not been able to put on a thinking camp. We've suffered with leadership and we lack management capability. I think those are the things that we are suffering from.
Thank you very much, Leke. Those are very, very frightening, but at the same time, heartwarming statistics that we have all these minerals and everything, and yet you don't hear of any of these states producing any of these things. And even I keep laughing at my friends from Kwara and Kogi. I remember going to Kogi once for a funeral, and the road was meandering. And why the road was meandering was that it was trying to dodge outshoots of granite and marble that were coming naturally out of the ground. So the road had to dodge those outshoots to get to the Kogi where we were. And I'm sure there's no real granite factory or marble factory in any of those places. So what do we do, or why have successive governments neglected the simple harvesting of resources that are already there? My friend Oki Anyegulu, who spoke on this platform a few months ago, said that Enugu coal, or the coal from Anambra area, Kogi, also is the best coal, one of the best coals in the world, easiest to pick up from the ground. And he had even done a whole feasibility on harvesting coal, presented it to the government, and they threw it under the table, and nobody responded to him. Why have successive governments, both states and federal, not done anything about minerals that they have? And you have not even spoken about agriculture. You've just dwelt on mineral resources.
If I tell you the statistics and the data that I have, you'll be sadder. But like you said, there's hope for Nigeria. Let's look at why these things have not been. We believe that we're going to build a nation without thinking and without working hard intellectually. But you look at nations like Dubai that were developed, I mean, this is in a generation. This is not 2 generations or 3 generations. I was already an adult when Dubai started coming up. I'm an adult and I'm still alive, and I can see Dubai, and I'm envious of those people. What is happening is that they have good leadership, and that is where we have failed as a nation. And we have had accidents of history. Some of it's not our fault, but most of it our fault as well, because the elites who are supposed to go into government have refused to go into government. And so what you have is kakistocracy, which is government by the worst of the lot. Let's look at the energy policy. We've been on this power thing since I was little. I remember when I was little, we had NEPA, it was ECN then, and then they used to have a football team and all that stuff. I don't know if they still have that football team today. And the thing was that when NEPA or ECN lost a match, they took lights. And then when the police lost a match, they began to harass everybody on the streets. But we used to joke about those things.
Professor nodding her head. She remembers ECN very well.
Let's look at the energy policy to tell you the illogicality that I'm talking about, because we're a nation of federated illogicalities. What am I talking about? There is no nation in the world today that has a homogeneous energy system. What they do is that they look at the resources that they have and they diversify the energy sector in order for them to be able to function. What I would do if I were president is to take our energy policy at the level of the natural resources of the states. For example, based on geography, there are 5 energy resources Nigeria should turn to. Nigeria, northern Nigeria, should not even be on crude oil or what we are doing right now. I'm shocked that we are piping crude oil 345 kilometers into the north. That already presents logistical challenge and security challenge in order for us to refine crude in the north so that we can distribute crude in the north. But the average temperature in the north is 36 degrees, which means that there's an abundance of solar energy in the north. Why are they on NEPA grid? It just doesn't make sense to me. In Lagos, we have the Atlantic Ocean, which is a natural energy resource. Now, that Atlantic Ocean provides us with hydropower, and it also provides us with wind power. Now, when you say these things, they will tell you, oh, these things are not viable. These are new energy resources. They are not doable and everything. But the truth is that China has 114,763 megawatts installed capacity of wind energy. That's 31% of the world's total. America has 65,879. Germany has 39,165 megahertz. The totality of everything that we have, whether solar, whether NEPA, whether the totality of the energy that we have in Nigeria ranges from 3,567 megawatts to 4,557.3 megawatts on a good day. Though a minister claims that we have 13,000 in stock capacity, how is a nation, that is not even enough for Lagos. How is a nation as big and as viable as Nigeria, how will it have 13,000 in stock capacity? In the East, and I'm glad you mentioned the coal in the East, why are they on crude oil energy when they can now coal and they have coal and River Niger? It means therefore that what they should be using is coal and hydropower, clean coal and hydropower. That is very available in the US, is well used in the US, is being used in the US. Clean coal, it doesn't dirty the end, it doesn't affect the environment, it works very well. In the South, which is interesting because there's nothing called South in geography. It's a quaint Nigerian invention, but we're that creative, okay? So in the South, they have gas, they have crude oil, and they are proximate to the Atlantic. They have the River Niger. So the natural energy resource should be fossil fuel, natural gas, and hydropower. Now, if we follow this energy policy, it means that in Lagos, they should be using hydropower and wind turbines. In the North, they should be using solar panels and solar power. In the East, they should be using clean coal and hydro water. And in the South side, they should be using fossil fuel, natural gas, and hydropower. If you take the North, just the North, away from the national grid, the economy of Nigeria will improve. Power will improve. Just taking the North of the national grid. Now, let me break it down for you so that you'll understand what I'm saying, and the listeners will understand where I'm coming from, why I'm so passionate about Nigeria. In fact, as I'm on this table, I'm literally shaking. I don't know whether in anger or whether in trepidation, whether the amount of information. If the North is off the grid, the rest of the country gets more power. Then the North on the solar power system creates new employment and industries. We have solar panels industry, solar roofing industries, solar cars. I don't know why they are not driving Teslas in the North. They have no business driving gas guzzlers at all. Then there will be a battery industry. These are viable industries for the North. Then, of course, because you have the specialties, what you are going to have is that the educational system has to change into these specialties. Instead of us having a one-size-fits-all that JAMB does, and you are just doing the same educational structure for everybody, each region, each economic zone should have an educational system that fits the nativism of that zone. Then you have a clean environment, you have healthy sector, then more usage, more innovation, export potential, more employment, less security challenge, ready internal market creates more FDI, room for FDI. The brand value, which is what I specialize in, you cannot be talking about the North as cities of the future, and there's a tourism potential. The excess electricity produced, because the North will become a net producer of electricity, they will sell the excess electricity to the South. And then tourism concepts will be like Sahara Trek, hotel in the Sahara, all year-round weather. I mean, just try and imagine the amount of publicity. Just imagine that the North is Dubai. What can't we do? What can we do? We'll run adverts that say that every day is summer. Visit Northern Nigeria. If you want winter, go to Europe. We'll run adverts that say Nigerian camels running on biofuels since 1847. Tesla has nothing on us. We'll run adverts that say that the camels in Dubai have a lot to learn from camels in Nigeria. Just the potential is huge, but we are lazy. And that is what befuddles me. It's not as if we don't have people who can think. We have people like you and so many brilliant people in Nigeria, but we won't engage them because we are looking for easy way out, and because the governors, don't want to do the hard work. So that's my challenge. Over to you, Pastor Ituah.
So the governors don't want to do the hard work. Why are the governors of this why are they of this mentality where they don't want to do the hard work? Although somebody also said that the laws or the constitution of Nigeria does not allow for the quick, mining or development of our minerals and all that, this concurrent list, recurrent list, federal list, this and that list, and so on and so forth. What's your opinion on that? Are you of that view also?
Again, that's part of the hard work. The ruling party has a majority in the Senate, in House of Reps, in the gubernatorial seats. So what are we talking about? That's the ruling party. One party controls Nigeria. There's hardly any opposition. So what are we talking about? So I don't buy that argument. Number two, that is part of the work. Take the energy policy. There was nothing stopping the states from forming corporations to do all those things, to set up solar panels. And in Kaduna, they are doing that now. There's a private company that is selling up solar panels, manufacturing and all those things. These are things you should have done since 1960 or 1970 or something. So I don't buy all that argument, because the states that are doing well, Lagos is doing very well, we could do better. So what are they doing that is any different? Of course, they too have a homogeneous party structure. They control the House of Assembly, they control the gubernatorial seats and all those, they control the local government. So if you have a homogeneous party that is controlling all the structures of the state, what hard work, what excuse are they giving? There's no excuse. There's no excuse.
What about this excuse about resource control? You know, just recently, the PIB or whatever bill they were trying to pass was even reducing the resource control from 5% to 3% to the resource generating states. They are now saying that pipelines, if it passes through your garden, you have now become a, what you will call
yeah.
It's and all that. And now by doing pipelines all the way to Niger to supply crude to a 20,000 barrel refinery, while we have 400 barrel refinery in Nigeria. That all these policies by the federal government just don't make sense at all. What's your thinking?
Let them, even if they give a state 90% derivation and everything, they'll say poverty. Then the reason is simple. First of all, you don't control the price of oil. OPEC is not as strong as it used to be, number one. Number two, your population is increasing at an alarming rate. So how much are you going to divide among the people, you know, and everything, and it's going to be okay. Number three, you have 31 mineral resources somewhere, you have 18 somewhere, you have 21 somewhere, and you're all struggling over one. How does that make sense? We don't need crude oil. The most amazing thing, the most abundant thing that this nation has is the people, is the people, is the resource of the people. How is it possible that Nigerians excel everywhere in the world, everywhere, except in Nigeria? Then it means that there's a system that is keeping the people down, and there's a system that is killing imagination and is killing resources and killing enterprise. What the governors need to be concentrating on, when we are manufacturing poverty at an industrial scale, then you need to sit down and say, this thing is not working. This incremental gradualism will not work. Increase it 13.5% to 14% to whatever. It's not going to work. We're still going to come here next year. We're going to have this same argument. Pastor Ituah, do you know how long we've been talking about derivation and increments in derivation formula and all those things? It's like you are dividing a shrinking cake. To make it worse, the entire world, right before our eyes, the entire world is moving from fossil fuel technology. We're zeroing in on it as if that's our life and that should be our life source. What we need to do is to unleash the potential of our youth. Pastor Ituah, you founded your company when you were young. You don't have the kind of energy that you have right now, that you had then now. I founded all that consulting in my 20s. And the reason we're able to do all those outstanding work, I look back sometimes and I can't believe that we did all those things and grow a company from absolutely nothing into something. You can't do that as an old man. So unleash the energy of the youth. Now, it's not for the state to create jobs. When the state creates jobs, it creates inefficiencies and bottlenecks and corruption, because there'll be too many people chasing too few jobs. And what you have is increased bureaucracy with this, the oppression of the people, and that is not going to work. What the state needs to do is to create job creators, encourage the people to do, divide the people into two, the young people into two. There'll be those who want to create jobs for themselves, which is okay, but you need to encourage those who will create jobs. Just imagine if the state is able to harvest 1 million youths in Nigeria out of the 161 million, and say this 1 million, if they can create 20 jobs each, that's 20 million jobs. Why aren't we thinking like that? And that's because we do deductive reasoning. We don't do constructive, conceptual reasoning. And you can't develop a future nation Without conceptual reason, you got to be able to say, okay, where are we going? What are we going to become? What is undergirding this nation and others? And then we're not serious, because the great nations are built on concepts. America is built on the proposition that all men are created equal and they are endowed by their creator with inalienable rights. And among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. France talks about equality, fraternity, and all those kinds of things. What exactly is Nigeria built on? And how true are we to the words of on the superscription on a coat of arms? Unity and faith, peace and progress. There's no peace, there's no unity, there's no faith, there's no progress. So it means that it's just a decorative motif. It doesn't mean anything to us. Some people need to be able to sit down and say, what do these words mean? How do we actualize them? How do we turn them into things that we can mechanize to produce prosperity for the people? Because the end of the state is prosperity for the people. Yes, I know we talk about security and prosperity, but the more there's security, the more the image of the people rises, the more the green passport, means something abroad. You don't know what it means. And I'm sure you can feel these things. So I worked so hard and succeeded in your nation. And then you get to another border of a country, and you are just treated like a criminal, a common criminal and a crook. And you are looking at it and saying your problem is your green passport. How is it possible that what is supposed to be the instrumentality of my image is supposed to increase my image level? How is it that that thing is what is degrading me? And we're not sitting down and looking at this thing. Something is wrong. And it's a psychological problem. Something is wrong. We condition the people to accept poverty. Something is wrong. I don't know how you can be a governor or a leader sitting on a mass of poor people and there's no shame, there's no fear, nothing. We are acclimatized to poverty. We are acclimatized to seeing poverty. And our religious inclinations come in. On Fridays, the Muslims will give something, and then on Sundays, the Christians will go through something. And we feel that, we've done our work and everything. If you don't solve the poverty problem in the nation, there's going to be a problem, bigger problem that we have right now. I think people can see that, and all the insecurity challenges that you are seeing is because we fail to invest in social services. You cannot produce good people of the future, people who will be productive in the country and contribute to the country without education. Our budget for education, let me show you. The budget for education is 672.1 billion. How is 61 million youths going to share 672.1 billion? 5.1% of the budget. Whereas in the days of Shagari, we used to talk about education budget being 40%. So what happened? How did education become so less important? And we think that we can produce a future without education. And then we banned history. How are people going to work properly and understand the future when they don't have a sense of history? The policies, I don't understand. I just don't understand.
I can feel your pain, my brother. I think Charles Iyore has something to say or something to add. I can feel your pain, but what I want us to do after Charles has spoken, and then Ibrahim Palm will also make his comments, is for us to granulate this a little bit and say, what can we, the people, do? What can we, the people, do to ensure that we pick up Nigeria from what it is and try and turn it around? Charles, let me hear you.
Thank you very much, Pastor Ituah. And thank you, Leke Alder. The last time we spoke, you reminded me that if I wanted to build tunnels, I should turn to Elon Musk. I've spoken to him. I'll come back to you. Now, what you have done today is fantastic. What I'll tell you is that the nation is like the human body. For the human body to succeed and to be alive, it needs air, it needs blood. No, it needs blood and it needs communication. Air, oxygen you get, blood is what you get, communication is the nervous system. And also for a country to survive, you need power, you need communication, and you need currency. The currency is the lifeblood. If your blood is poisoned, then you constantly have to infuse blood into the system. That blood you constantly infuse into the system is called the dollar. Therefore, for as long as you're constantly, you can't manage your currency well and you're using blood into the system, you are prone. You're in the system, there's no impetus for growth. I'm just trying to be tactical for you. I'm also quite impressed that I'm sure I wrote that article, Poverty Being Manufactured on an Industrial Scale. I'm happy you read it also. So the guys who are betraying us are the elites. The NESG told us that we are not managing our currency well. And the central bank went at the NESG. The NESG is a preeminent consulting group in Nigeria. They took everybody out. That's where we are. So like I told Pastor Ituah, just like he just said, we need to find a systematic and structural way so that we can say from that conceptual basis, begin to return the Naira as impetus for growth. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Charles. I'll just wait for Ibrahim to speak, then you can respond to both.
Okay.
Thank you, Pastor Ituah, and thank you very much, Leke. Honestly, I think you've hit the nail on the head about laziness in thinking. But also, I think there's a deep anti-intellectualism in Nigeria. So whenever anybody tries to do what you are doing, you are labeled as some elitist person who is speaking big grammar. And yet, no country, like you said, can develop without deep conceptual thinking. Take a look at this. We're heading headlong into a serious economic crash. Why? Because, as you said, fossil fuels are being phased out in many parts of the Western world. So in Europe, for example, cars are required to be electric by 2030. That is in 9 years to come. In fact, Norway has said this would happen by 2025. That's in 4 years. Remember, 71% of the petroleum that is used in Western countries, about 70%, is used in motor vehicles. So by the time demand crashes, our oil will be worth next to nothing. And that is why economies like Dubai and so on, UAE, have transitioned from oil economies, from resource-based economies to more advanced economies based on other things, tourism, technology, et cetera, et cetera. So we're losing all of our income in a very short time. And right now, you don't even see any kind of thinking towards addressing these huge shortfalls we're going to face in revenues. But let me ask you, regarding a lot of what you said, what is your view on the resource curse? Because, and I'm sure you're aware of Jeffrey Sachs' research on this issue, that countries that have abundant resources, it's a paradox, apparently have a problem with development. So it's like the poor people keep making the wrong choices, eating burgers and growing fat while their health is deteriorating. This is what we're facing in Nigeria. How do you think we are going to reverse this thinking? Because when people come forward, and when you blame the elite, like somebody said, we are the elite. And the fact is, we have sat down and allowed this nonsense to continue. We have been overrun by barbarians in government who have destroyed our educational sector. I would love to see that genius who wrote the memo saying history should no longer be taught in our secondary schools. I think that kind of person needs to be named so that the rest of us can actually come out and shame them. But we sat down and watched people sell our economy to the IMF, impose structural adjustment on us, liberalize our economy when we were not ready to compete, remove subsidies on agriculture and education, remove subsidies on education in a poor country. So here we are. When Awolowo was talking about free education, we totally reversed to a situation where people were saying education has to be taxed. And that's why we are where we are. So I really wonder what you think about what effort it would take, including what Pastor Ituah was doing and so on, to reverse this and introduce some right thinking into government and get rid of these barbarians. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you. Most of,
Leke, over to you.
okay. People don't know it. Pam and I were classmates in university and in law school. And he's doing great in Korea. And he's someone that I respect so much. Ever the gentleman, but thank you. Resource costs, all those things. If I were president, the first thing that I'll do is that I'll call intelligent people and I say, let's assume that we don't have oil. Because the truth is, we don't even have the oil. Most of what we have as a mortgage, we're owing trillions of naira. So there's no amount of oil that we earn right now or that we extract that will pay off our debt. So let's assume that we don't have oil, okay? Now what will I do? I will divide the country into 5 economic zones. I'll look at the north. Let me confirm some notes here so that I can be sure what I'm talking about. I'll look at the northwest and northeast economic zone. I'll look at the southwest economic zone. I'll look at Lagos as an economic zone. I'll look at South-South as an economic zone, and then I'll look at Middle Belt as an economic zone. Now, what you need to do is to cast a vision for each of the zones, these economic zones. Now, I don't know how we're going to finagle that in terms of, there needs to be cooperation among the states, assuming that this is the constitution that we continue to operate and everything, but there needs to be cooperation at that level in order to leverage what they have. Now, what I'm proposing is what I call nativist federalism. And nativist federalism says that look at the weather conditions in a nation, look at the proclivity of the people, look at the mineral resources of the people, and then use that to develop an economic model for each region. For example, let's look at the Southeast. There's just something about the Igbo man. He's a manufacturer. He loves tinkering. He loves making things. So what we need is to say, okay, assuming that we have a vision, we can't have one homogeneous vision for the entire country. We'll have 6 visions. We'll have, for the Southeast, let's imagine that our vision is to make it Africa's industrial hub. In order for us to do that, we need to set up certain industries. There'll be car manufacturing industries there. They have iron ore, and they have other materials that they can use to do all these things. There'll be light industry there, and I'm talking about based on their mineral resources now. There'll be local cottage industries, mining industry, pharmaceutical industry, construction industry, jewelry industry. Now, that zone needs logistical linkages by road and network to Port Harcourt so that they can fly to Dubai to the Far East through Dubai. Dubai is disintermediating us right now. We keep on shouting we're the giant of Africa. What Dubai says is that that's an expired vision. So Dubai decided to be the hub for the Middle East, Africa, and Asia. And that's what they are doing right now, which is why they put a lot of emphasis on the airline. The airline hardly makes the kind of money that the nation should be making, but they need it to facilitate their vision. So we need Port Harcourt to develop. I don't know why anybody in the East wants to travel and it needs to come to Lagos. It does not make sense. It should be able to travel from Port Harcourt to Dubai and then to the Far East. Then you need to change the education based on these things that I've said. You need to now reformat the educational policy. They need technical colleges because they're a manufacturing zone. They need the University of Technology or Universities of Technology. That is what, I'm not saying that other universities should not be set up, but they need this as a matter of course, because that is what fits into their nativist federalism. Then the energy policy has to change. We have to rely on coal, we have to rely on hydro. Then the health policy system has to change. There'll be more reliance on ENT, safety and environmental issues because it's a manufacturing base. Then they need supportive infrastructure in terms of rail from the east to Port Harcourt. It's important that they have a cargo airport because they're a manufacturing zone. So even though you have passenger planes, but what is more important to them is cargo airport. And then in branding, we need to brand them. Of course, they have tourism. We already have the New Year Festival, Airbnb and everything. So we need to blow that out of proportion. But if I were to brand that place, I'll just put out something adverse and say very well made in Aba. Very well made in Aba, very well made in Aba. And before you know it, people are coming to those places. So that's how we need to turn around the Southeast economic zone. We can do that for each of the zones. Lagos can be done like that. With the vision should be to turn into a finance and enterprise hub. The Southwest should be turned into a food and cash crop hub. The Middle Belt should be turned into horticulture and agriculture. I mean, there are flowers in the Middle Belt. Why can't we export these flowers? There are countries, there's a nation that exports flowers every day to Nigeria. I mean, flowers come every day to Nigeria. And we buy these flowers 40,000 naira, 50,000 naira, you know. And then for the South, it should be an energy hub. Now I can break all this down. So that's what we need to do. We need to do nativist federalism. In the North, which everybody thinks is a problem, you know, because of the poverty level. The cows that are a problem are actually our solutions. For example, with those cows, we need fertilizer industry, we need local cottage industry based on the mineral resources that they have. We need the cable production industry, we need the construction industry, mining industry, electrical industry, jewelry industry. And what we're going to brand the North, the vision for the North to be to make it the global fashion accessory hub. As I speak to you right now, Louis Vuitton and all those countries come to that place to come and buy leather. So why can't we take advantage of that and leverage the North so that these cows that are producing problems become more resourceful for us? And then, of course, like I said, you have to change the educational policy to fit the nativist federalism that we're practicing so that they will have schools of husbandry and school of fashion design. The energy policy will, of course, be solar. The health will be specialty in ophthalmology, ENT, and things like that. Supportive infrastructure will be cattle rearing and agriculture. The branding, just imagine that you wake up one day and you look at an advert on CNN that says, "Our cows, no fashion," you know, and then you have tourism, you have the Agungun Festival, you have Durban Festival. I'm saying that each zone has a tourism industry, has a manufacturing base, has an educational system that fits into the system, has an energy policy that fits into the system, has an health policy that fits into the system, has a supportive infrastructure system that fits into the system. What we are practicing will not work and cannot work. You can't ignore what I have, my capacities and everything, and impose something on me. You know, you can't impose what works in the East on the North, and you can't impose what works on the North on the Southwest, and you can't impose what works on the Southwest on Lagos. These are distinct industries. That's the way we ought to go. Nativist federalism that takes cognizance of the weather, the bend, the potential of the state, the bend of the people, the education of the people, all those things. Those are the things that we need to do. Over to you, Pastor Ituah.
Thank you very much, Leke. This is very interesting. And I'm surprised that all these things, nobody really has thought it through, even in a more simplistic fashion. Mrs. Adelabu, Her Excellency, the former adopted governor of Ekiti State, she wanted to ask a question just as we're rounding off the last time. So I don't know if she's still interested. Mrs. Adelabu.
I think really. Thank you, sir.
Yes,
can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I was just going to make a point on this aspect of history as a course in the schools. And I also added civics. Some of our problems now are created because of lack of knowledge about our past, especially history. You know, most of the things the speaker has been saying, things that we can even learn from history. Our children, and they don't know anything about the granite pyramid, the grace pyramid, cocoa, whatever it is, the influence of cocoa in Nigeria, and how cocoa has developed education in the Southwest, etc. It is because of lack of knowledge. And civics too, I'm advocating that we should also we should take back civics into our primary schools. So let children learn from now. What is democracy? What is corruption? What is sectarian? These are things we learned when we were in primary schools. And the speaker was saying that maybe the government should get together some people with knowledge. The only thing we have in this country is personnel. An average Nigerian is knowledgeable, even an illiterate is knowledgeable. I don't know that once they get together to make policies, they always depart from what they know. And this is the bane of our problem. It's just an addition. I think that policymakers should know that doing all these things that he has suggested, they are not strange. They are very simple. To me, I'm learning a lot because what is nothing difficult in what he has said. It's just to be able to implement what you already know. Thank you very much.
Your Excellency, thank you for being on the program, and we'll note those things very well. And I'm going to ask Leke, a few pointed questions before we close, because I really want a call to action. But I think Sonny Nebi also wants to make a contribution or ask a question. And then there's a gentleman called Egbon, and I think Ibrahim wants to chip in again. So we'll take those comments, those three other comments, and then Leke, I'll ask you to come back and respond to them. Sonny, please, my co-presenter.
Thank you very much, Pastor Ituah. Leke, thank you very much. I think you've spoken brilliantly. I mean, listening to you give us hope that there are still very, very bright people in Nigeria. I have a two-part question for you. One, I think, is what Pastor was saying he wants to ask. So in your view, from where we are now, what are the first things first? You have said quite a lot. You've enumerated all the minerals we have. You've enumerated the various challenges. If you were to advise, what are the first things first? What should they do first? And in what order should we progress? Having said that also, I am aware that you do consult for a lot of companies, probably for government and all of that. If that is true, in all your interaction with these people, and I'm sure that you must have advised on certain things, to what extent have they imbibed all this strategy, advice, or consultation you have done for them? And if they are not implementing it, why not? And what do you put into those caveats to make them carry out some of these things that you're implementing? Because, I mean, you've spoken so well. So you've advised, you've given all the strategies. If they are not doing it, why do you think they are not doing it? And what more can be done? So two-part question, really. Thank you.
Thank you so much. First of all, Your Excellency, thank you for your contribution about civics and about history. I will even go further and say that it's not just political history that should be taught. If you are going to create entrepreneurs, you need to teach them business history as well. So branding history and everything, we need to study, for example, why some brands fail, why some brands succeed, why the West is doing well with branding. Why? Because the brand is a fifth factor of production after land, labor, capital, and land, labor, capital, and enterprise. So first things first. Pastor Ituah said something, I think 2 sessions ago. He said, we know these people. You know, in one of the videos I was trending about him, he said, we know these people. In other words, we need to mount pressure both at the personal level and at the political level so that they can do what they say. There's a way that God has made government. God has made government to be sensitive to criticism. So, but I don't want us to be people who just criticize. I want us to be people who not only criticize, but also have answers. So we need to be able to, for example, on a regional basis, people like Pastor Ituah should be able to put all the governors together in one room and show them the possibilities, all that is possible in a state or in a region. If we put all the governors, if all the states come together, for example, Ebonyi will keep on driving down the economy of the Southeast, but the Southeast needs to lift Ebonyi off because Ebonyi will be producing poverty and then will be affecting the economy of the other states. So there has to be a way of lifting Ebonyi up. Okay, so we need to present to them and say, look, this is what is possible. At least dream. This is what is feasible. And then lawyers can advise us, this is how to go about this within the ambit of the Constitution as it is right now. And if there's a need to change the Constitution, then we need to make the argument on the need to change the Constitution, not from fear of hegemonic tendencies, not from other considerations of political considerations, not from political considerations, but from economic considerations, because if we don't solve our economic challenges, we'll keep on having the insecurities that we have, and we'll keep on having the problems that you have. People will keep on selling their votes for a loaf of bread. The Esau syndrome will continue. So we need to put the governors together in a room, region by region, and say, this is what is feasible, and get them to buy in. Somebody mentioned, I think the last speaker mentioned the fact that I consult for government. What did we do? We sat down to convince Nigeria that we had an image problem in those days. We sat down with the minister and presented to him and showed him slide by slide in a logical sequence that these are the challenges we have, these are the potentials of the country, this is what we can do, and these are the solutions. And we did that. Then it took us to the president, and then we presented the National Economic Council, the Federal Executive Council, and the nation bought into it, and we started this program. And then we handed over everything to the government. And then by the time the next minister came in, she didn't understand what was going on. She didn't understand the program. And instead of calling the people that devised the program, she decided that she was going to simplify it, and she oversimplified it. And then there was problem, and the program died. And the hard work of 5 years just died. And that was very painful because we spent a lot of money trying to get to that point. So that's what we need to do. In terms of my interaction with people that are in government and all those things, I'm very careful about saying things in public because I have a certain access at certain levels, up to a certain point at least. And then what I've learned in interacting with government is that politics always triumphs over policy. So if we're going to solve any of this problem, we need to take care of both the politics and the policy. Because what is wrong with Nigeria is that sometimes the governors even know what to do, but there's no will to do what is right by the people. And that is the problem, the will to do what is right and not take the easy way out. The will to say, we need to educate, invest at least 20 years in the educational sector, declare an emergency in the educational sector. Because what is troubling me about the educational sector, and we need to pay a lot of attention to that area, what is troubling me about that area is that these people that we're not educating, whether we like it or not, by the sheer volume of numbers, they are the ones that are going to end up being senators. They're going to be the one House of Reps. They're going to be the House of Assembly, and one of them will emerge president. One of them will emerge governor. And so you are going to have people that are not well educated running the country. And then what do you expect? Grade B people will always go for grade C people, and then the country suffers for it. So we need to get past that. And those are the things that I need to do. I think we need to go personal. I think we need to have a conclave of the governors, put them in a room and present ideas to them and say, this is what is feasible. Some regions are doing it, but they are not following nativist federalism. And therefore, they're not able to leverage the resources of the people and the resources of the region and the resources of the people in order to produce poverty and prosperity for the people. That's my take.
Thank you very much, Leke. And you and I think we'll discuss this nativist federalism a little bit more, maybe after the program or something. And that's very, very incisive. And I think it's something that we should all attempt to try and do one way or the other. The gentleman called Egbon would like to say something. I think Ibrahim also had his hand up at a certain time. And Benjamin Onyeze, please make your comments short and sharp so that we can take a few more. Short and
I would like to just chip in a few, because I wonder why we have a complex about our currency. The Naira was introduced around 71, 72 by Yakubu Gowon. And I can remember that was around the time they did the Udoji and everything. Even while the Naira was stronger than the dollar, people still, wanted to have more to do with the dollar and foreign currencies. I don't know why. I can remember when I was in school, Ituah and I were about Form 3, Form 4. Some of our elites then, some that we thought would knew the way, they were suspended from school for trading in foreign exchange. So when you look at the purchasing power of our currency, there's so many things that are just abstractly wrong, and I don't know why we don't seem to be pinpointing the exact things that are, we're not being descriptive, we're being objective the way we're going about our things. And I think, we really have to regroup and reorganize the thing and let one person have a vision which will be unitary and let everybody follow it from my own perspective. Have a lovely day.
Thank you very much.
Let me just say a little bit about the currency, because what is happening is that we're printing money, which is why the money keeps on depreciating. It's buying less and less. And if you're not producing, you can't earn as a nation. So what are we producing? we're not exporting. Our chief source of income was crude oil. Now we're not refining crude oil. So what will happen is that we'll export crude oil, and then we'll import refined crude oil. So whatever the advantage we had from the devaluation that we had on the naira is lost by the time we bring in the refined petroleum products and everything, because we're now paying the reverse. So we need to produce. And right now the service sector is increasing, and the government needs to look at the productive sectors of the economy and say, okay, how do we shift the economy? How do we get people exporting? How do we get young people earning foreign currency? That's the key. Because unless we do that, if the country is not producing, you have to produce as a nation. If you're not producing, you can't earn forex. It's as simple as that. Over to you, Pastor.
Very much. Ibrahim, let me hear you. Then after Benjamin Omizia, Olumide Joshua, my classmate, and Afolabi Ajidan in that order. Ibrahim.
Thank you, Pastor. I'm very sorry to come back, but just 2 quick points, Leke, and maybe for your reflection. On what you said about exports, Korea, for example, built its economy to apparently the 11th or 12th largest in the world, starting from, by the way, in the 60s and 70s, the Korean economy was smaller than the Ghanaian economy. Today, they're the 11th or 12th largest in the world. They started an iron and steel industry 1 year before we started the Jaukuta and Alaja. And today, POSCO is the 3rd largest iron and steel industry in the world. So they based their economy on what they called an export, it was an export-led economic policy, export-led industrialization. So it's a very interesting model that you talk about. It has to be export-driven. But the one thing I wanted to mention to you, as you talked about the solar energy potentials in the north of Nigeria, I work at the Green Climate Fund. 3 years ago, we approved a project of $460 million to fund 13 solar energy projects in Nigeria, 1 in Enugu State and the other 12 in the north. You wouldn't believe that this money has lapsed because Nigeria has not taken the steps it needs to take to access this funding. It is incredibly frustrating for people like us who are working to see how we can begin to create opportunities for our country. And so we're talking about nearly $500 million that would have gone, and these solar projects, by the way, would have benefited directly or indirectly 1 million households in the north of Nigeria. And this is the kind of thing that you talk about, taking the north off the national grid and freeing heavy energy resources for the rest of the country. Anyway, just thought to share that. But it's a shame the way that we are being managed, because even the opportunities that come to us on a platter, we are turning our backs on them. Thank you.
Ibrahim, you have to bring that money back before you go to the poultry farm. That's all I have to tell you. We have to find a way to bring that money back before the chicken. Can you imagine money waiting and people not bothering to access it for not fulfilling certain terms? Maybe a letter here, a guarantee there, a receiving agent there, a bank account there, a collateral signing of a document, maybe 7, 8 conditions, and maybe a condition to say this money will be judiciously used. Finish. But people just don't bother because they don't see the personal benefit to themselves. And that's just a real pity. Mr. Benjamin, let me hear you.
Good evening, Mr. Leke Alder. First and foremost, thank you for your series, Letter to Jack and Jill. It really came handy in my early years. And we're not happy that you stopped the series. But back to my question. So you mentioned that, paraphrasing, right, that one of the problems of Nigeria is that those who were supposed to take over leadership kind of left leadership to the charlatans we have today. So, sir, what are some of the ways, or how can we encourage those who we know have the ability and the capacity to do the things you mentioned? How do we encourage them to go into politics? Because leadership is our biggest problem in Nigeria. Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Pastor Ituah, can I quickly answer Benjamin, please?
Okay, yeah, answer Benjamin, respond to Ibrahim, and then, yeah.
Ibrahim, myself, Ibrahim, and yourself have to sit down somewhere and have good tea and have good discussion. It's
very big Korea at Ibrahim's expense.
It's painful. It's like you said, $500 million. It's just gone. Like you said, for filing documents.
There are millions of them everywhere in different states. Health grants that people don't access, agricultural grants people don't access. A friend of mine even tried to ship medical equipment to a hospital, a government hospital in Lagos. The accountant asked him for a bribe, and he got upset, and he sent the equipment to Ghana. Anyway, go ahead.
Ibrahim and Benjamin, if your generation can do only one thing, just one thing, campaign very hard for electoral reform for people to be able to vote by phone.
Finish.
If you can do that, everything changes in Nigeria. The mobile telephony density in Nigeria is 150 million. And why do we need to go and queue for 7 hours at a polling booth? Then after we queued, then they do verification. Then we finally get to vote. And then when you get there, you find that your name is not there and all sorts of things. And then after you voted, you have to follow the electronic thing. You have to follow the ballots to the counting collation center. And then from the collation center, it's a ridiculously expensive thing. For a party to put polling agents in all the polling booths in the nation, you require 52 billion naira to do that. So already the youths are cut off because you don't have the money. So why is it possible that when I tweet something, I can see in real time how many retweets are going on, how many likes are going on? Why can't we adapt such a technology to our voting system so that at polling centers or at the centers, I can see in real time what is going on? The day you campaign for for voting by phone, that is the day that everything changes. That's the day you take power in this country, because they will tell you it's not possible because people can hijack it and everything. But isn't that what is already happening? And people are already hijacking the votes and hijacking all sorts of things. And there's toggery and there's no safety. Why do I need to spend 7 hours doing something I can do in 2 minutes? Of course, there are levels of security that you need to put in place and everything. And say, oh, even America is not doing it. What have we got to do with America? Dubai never thinks that way. Dubai is already scanning people for coronavirus with their phone. There's a scanner. You go to a shopping mall, they just scan you with your phone, and they can tell whether you have coronavirus or not. In 2 seconds, you can tell. Dubai doesn't wait for certain things. Rwanda doesn't wait for certain things. Rwanda is delivering medical equipment to villages by drones. So why can't, if your generation, because you are technological natives, why are you voting Neanderthals, like Neanderthals, with all these people, my generation and older generation, who would rather queue and then go and eat for a polling booth and then socialize and everything, when you can sit in the comfort of your home and just vote? Then they will tell you, we can't roll it out at the same time. No problem. Let's have model systems. Let's have trial systems. Let's try it in Lagos or in some local governments in Lagos or in some wards in Lagos, and let's iron out the box. The day you do that, everything changes. Nobody can change the numbers. Nobody can cheat you. You know what is going on. You know how many votes have been collated. You don't need to have a huge party. You don't need to belong to a huge party. All you need to do is to have a micro system that takes advantage of the area you are in your local government, and you win. So that is what your generation can do. It must be a campaign. It's something. If you do that, trust me, everything changes in Nigeria. Thank you.
That's very interesting, Leke. We'll come back to that, because all I know is that PDP will go and buy all the phones in MTN and buy all the phones in it.
Verification methodologies. If you want to put on your iPhone, there's iris scanning. Iris, not eye scanning, not facial recognition. iris scanning. And if Big Brother, Mnet program, can cumulatively total votes of 150 million people, and the final, they were able to cumulatively tally votes of 30 million people, why is that impossible in Nigeria? If we can pay for our schools, our tuition in schools, if we can pay for hospitals through our phones, do everything, transfer money to the village through phones, why can't we vote by phone? There's nothing. It's just that they come up with all these arguments and tell you all these impossibilities and everything, but everything is always impossible until it is possible, until somebody does it. So why can't we try it?
I think that is the solution to that is a major breakthrough. And I think that's something we should be campaigning for. And I think Henry might be on the platform. That's part of our social reform that we're going to be doing from this platform. And don't try me. And electronic voting, electronic counting of the votes. Everybody should go and register to vote. And now Leke has added to it the ability to vote by phone and then independent candidature. End of story.
But we need to see the vote tally in real time.
Yes.
It is possible. Twitter does it, Facebook does it, Instagram does it.
Yes.
What is there in it?
There's no big deal. Everybody can see it, and by the end of the day, you don't even need to announce the results. You'll see it on your phone, and everything is a done deal. Then you can really hear the voice of the people, and not the voice of the corrupted people, or the brainwashed people, or the blackmailed people, or the improvised people, or the bullied people. Afolabi, let me hear you. I see my brother Akole is on the platform. Long time no see. Good to see you. I'll take your question next. Okay, so Afolabi, you, and then Kole Olofueko.
Good evening, all. Pastor, good evening, everybody. First of all, that electronic voting, I hope it works, and I wish everybody luck, but they will frustrate Nigerians because they want to remain in power. I wanted to respond to a gentleman. Well, before I do that, you said about government. One thing I've noticed in Nigeria, and I hope you've all noticed, is that government-led businesses do not survive. Ibrahim Pam keeps talking about Ajakuta Steel Mill. What about Nigerian Airways? Why do they not survive? Because monies are just siphoned out of these organizations. How come private airlines can still be working, but government airlines, Nigerian Airlines, which was one of the biggest airlines in Africa, just collapsed and has just disappeared? And nobody is saying a word. And the people that work there still can't get their pensions till today. I know this as a fact because I worked in the aviation industry, Ministry of Aviation. The other thing I wanted to say is about the man that was saying about why do we have like a black look down on our Naira. Well, right now, the Naira just depreciates every single day. Anybody that's in business, tell me, everybody has to import whatever they're doing for business. It's only if you're in mass population or agriculture that, you don't have to base your products on foreign currency. There is nothing we produce in Nigeria, as has been said many times. Everything is imported. We have no form of earning foreign currency. So how do we expect our currency not to continue to depreciate by the hour? You wake up, you look at the exchange rate in the morning, by evening, it's changed and it's gone higher. It's extremely frustrating. People come in and say, why do you base your products on dollar? Are we in America? You cannot base your products on Naira because by the time they want to pay for your product, you'll lose money because you now have to go and exchange the Naira to the dollar to stay in business. And unfortunately, this current government is not business orientated. It does not give any sympathy to the businessman. During COVID, we've had no form of reliefs. We did no business throughout last year. interest rates, borrowing in Nigeria, interest rate is basically dashing the money to the bankers, dashing the money. They're another bunch of, as Ibrahim would say, I leave it for that, and all I'm saying is when Pastor Paul said, get a plan B, I've spoken to so many people, they're working hard on plan Bs. A lot of my friends, their families don't even live in Nigeria anymore. Apart from insecurity, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare moving to try and get to your office. It's a nightmare getting home. And whilst you're there in between those hours, it's a nightmare doing business. But anyway, I will stay in Nigeria and I will continue to tread along and push along and pray that things get better. I thank you for hearing me and I wish you all very good luck and good evening. Thank you, Pastor Paul, and Leke, thank you very much. Ibrahim, sorry, I didn't mention you. I wanted to say thank you for your talk the other day. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Don't worry, you're not going anywhere. And Nigeria will get better by God's grace.
Amen.
I think Olumide had raised his hands earlier on. Olumide Joshua, then Kole Olofoeku, and also my boss Iroche, my boy Ayeroche. Okay, Olumide, please go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, Pastor Ituah, and thank you, Leke. I've enjoyed listening to you, and thank you, Pam. Too. Pam has made some really constructive comments as well. So let me just, electronic voting, whether it's by telephone or what, it's all subject to hacking. So I can see, some dubious Nigerian government official hiring the best brain in Eastern Europe, giving the person $10 million and just hack the votes here, a little bit here and there. By the time you see the tallies, it'll be wrong. Anyway, but this is where I'm going. For me, the fundamental problem with Nigeria is leadership. The basis, the foundation of every successful country is patriotic leadership, right? Intelligent people who are also patriotic. Nobody can tell me that we had those kind of people lead in Nigeria ever. So my question to Leke is this: we have all these economic solutions. We know what all the solutions are. How can we transform the country such that a subset of our most intelligent people who are also uber patriotic are the ones leading the country? Until we get to that point in time, we're just going to keep talking and come with all this. Nothing ever happens in, whether it's the USA or China, England, even Rwanda, until you have your best people who are also patriots in charge, right, of making policy, of ruling the country, of legislating, of enforcing laws. Yet we're just going to keep on talking. How do we get to that point in your mind? What do we need to do, right, to transform our political fortune such that, people like Pastor Ituah, people like you, our best people, right, who are patriots, are the ones in charge. Thank you.
That's a good question, Olumide. So, Leke, please note that question. You have to answer it because I was going to ask you that question.
No problem.
Kole, please, Olofoeku.
Okay, thank you. Independent voters, let me start with there. I just want to throw something in the air for us to look at later. I think we should work it that on every ballot, there will be a top 2 independent voters by must, so that there will be, I think that's the only way we can get top people involved. You see, the political parties can do all they want, but there could be a separate pre-election or during that election is a top 2. So just reserve 2 slots for the top 2 independent voters. I'm telling you that many people in the country that will not vote for the political parties, that do not believe in the political parties, will vote good quality independent candidates. So I think it is a conspiracy against inclusion to kind of tighten the nose against independent voters. That's the first thing. Now, about the phone voting, okay, I think an interim step.
Independent candidates, not voters.
Sorry, independent candidates is what I wanted to say. Independent candidates, yes. But there must be 2 independent candidates on any slot. Just reserve 1, 2 for the top 2. It is the electorate that will determine those top 2, but they should be there. I can tell you that if we had quality independent candidates on the ballot for the presidency, for example, the chances that we will get the best leadership for at the federal level and at the state level and at the local government will increase 100-fold. 100-fold. Because right now, the political parties are a conspiracy against true democracy. That's the fact. So that's one thing. About phone voting, that can be in the future. I think that for now, if people are physically present and we reconcile the number there on the spot, and we do electronic remittance securely from every polling booth, we will achieve the same thing. We will achieve the same thing, and it will be less. Remember that the best election in Nigeria so far has been the Abiola election, and we know how we got there. So it's easy to repeat. Okay, number 3, and the political parties cannot say this, and the politicians cannot say this, but we had better get it right, and if anybody doubts it, let them prove it. The worst enemy of progress in Nigeria is the government at any level. That is the worst enemy of progress. We are not developed because of government. We are not making progress because of government. Only government could make it possible that railways will die. In a country as vast as Nigeria, nearly 1 million square kilometers. We are nearly 1 million square kilometers. And railways died. Railways were invented long before the automobile. I was shocked to realize that in Hungary, the tube was commissioned in, I think, 1887. 1887, the tube, underground train. Why would railway die? Government. Why would we be importing refined petroleum products when refineries is not rocket science? Government. Why are we undeveloped? Government. The kind of people that are in government. So let's get it right. Nobody's been saying that, but that's the fact. The biggest obstacle to progress is government. Period. Okay. Now, next to that is that you would be very foolish if you ensure the safety of your lamb to the lion. Because in due course, the lion will just have the lamb for lunch. The worst performing sector of Nigeria, why is it that the private sector keeps on acting as if that's the only part that can develop Nigeria? It doesn't make sense. So even we in the private sector, we're not making sense. We're sometimes talking like children. Why do I say we're talking like children? You see, we are wearing pampers. We lack initiative. The private sector lacks initiative. How can we move forward? Oh, immediately they translate that to mean, how can we get the right people into government? It doesn't mean so. It does not mean so. The private sector is at least 85% of the economy, and the government is at least 15% of the economy by size. All the private sector has to do is social organization. That's all. In social organization, it's not everything that you can leave to government. And then social organization too, you can use it to get the right people into government. Stop singing advocacy. Stop singing advocacy. I'll show you an example. NSAS were extremely industrious. They achieved what they wanted to achieve. And the present government, I was shocked at the level at which they accepted the demands. But the NSAS people, they didn't know where to stop. They wanted to exchange it to regime change. And then they began to do illegal things. They don't have a right to stop other people from moving. Okay? But the good thing I want to point out from that is that the NSAS shows the power of social organization. We are underusing social organization. We are over-dependent on the government for the hope of the advancement of the country. I can tell you that if the private sector got far better at social organization, we can achieve a lot more for the country from the private sector perspective. And then if government want to catch up, they'll catch up. If they don't want to catch up, let them continue reviving grazing routes. Let them continue reviving grazing routes, while the private sector can take the country to the 21st century. So those are my thoughts on this.
Thank you very much. That's very interesting. To be honest, I'd had some thoughts on that private sector energizing the economy one way or the other, and it is possible. It will take a lot of work. It will take a lot of work, but it is possible. Let me hear Egbon Ayo Eroche very quickly, and then I'll have Leke respond, and then we'll take it before we close. The lady Biola, Biola wanted.
Yeah. I think you want me to say something. Ituah.
Raise your hands. Your hands are raised, except if you didn't know your hands were raised.
I'm up here.
Your hands were raised electronically.
Maybe you press. My hands are now raised naturally, virtually. Well, Ituah, I need to thank you so much that you've been doing so much on this platform, this African. I mean, it's very good. You've done so well. Unfortunately, I didn't join Leke Alder much earlier. But, you know, when I listen to some of my colleagues on this platform, I laugh. I think it was Ighodalo that was talking about Nigerian Airways. Mr. Ighodalo, the federal government killed Nigerian Airways. Nigerian Airways issued more complimentary tickets than sales. Government officials obtained more complimentary tickets. And I can tell you that 70% of Nigerian Airways tickets were complimentary tickets to government officials. In fact, at the time I was offered one and I rejected it. So let me tell you that that was the death of Nigerian Airways. Now, I remember my 41-year-old son asking me, Daddy, do you think that my own generation can change what Nigeria is? He says, Daddy, I'm not sure. I said, well, I think I've played my part, and I've already gotten my boarding pass. So the day the Lord calls on me, I bought my flight. But maybe you will hand it over to my grandchildren now who will do the thing. You see, Nigeria is all motion and no movement. I think it was in the 90s that we were talking about Vision 2020, or was it Vision 2010? Did we factor Boko Haram and herders and bandits into our Vision 2020? But here we are faced with Boko Haram, banditry, herdsmen, and the government itself is just taking sides. Why are we busy? Why is government busy chasing Nnamdi Kanu and Sunday Igboho? Is that our priority? Or you go to the National Assembly, they're not talking about how to take care of donkeys. They've left cows now, they're talking about donkeys. I mean, what kind of country is this? And we just don't behave like people who are sane. I heard Ibrahim talk about government not accessing certain money. My brother, I know how much, when I was in the United Nations, how much money was made available to government, which government could not access, because government was not interested in developmental projects. They were just interested in, let's have the fiscal cash, and we'll decide how to spend that cash. That is the kind of government we have. People wanting to collect the cash physically. when you prepare a program or a project schedule and say, look, this is what we have projected for so area of the country. Let's follow it. The governor says, you cannot tell me what to do here. Let me have the money and I know what I want to do for myself. That's the kind of mentality of the people we have in government. So all what we are doing now is just all motion and no movement. We're just wasting our time. Until we change, like Leke said, until we gather all these people into a room and tell them that, look, come, gentlemen, you're running the government, you're not running your private businesses. Nigeria is gone past what they are doing today. Toyota, Twitter are all setting up in Ghana. You're here banning Twitter. What the heck? What do you think we're doing? Twitter dealt with Donald Trump. Did Donald Trump ban Twitter in America? I mean, I don't understand what we are talking about in this country called Nigeria. Nigeria is a sad contraption, very, very sad one, because a lot of us don't belong with some of the people in the country called Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Leke, let me allow you to respond to those questions very quickly. After that, Abiola Makinwa, Yemi, and Sarume. Sarume is of the generation that we're talking about, so I really want to hear what he has to say. Okay, please go ahead.
The other question on the table is actually the one from Olumide Jose, which asks, how can we get the best people to run the government or to go into government? It's very simple. Let me just tell a story. About 15 years ago, 15, 17 or 20 years ago, I was invited I was propositioned on a job. I was asked whether I was interested in packaging a political candidate. And then I said I wanted to meet the candidate. And so they said, okay, you come and meet the candidate. We'll arrange for you to meet the candidate. So I walk into an underground bunker in a house in Ikoyi, and I seated around the table all the guys who controlled the corporate sector, the main guys who controlled the banking, corporate sector and everything. And then they were seated there along with the candidates, one of them. And this is the problem with the elites, and I'm not excusing myself, I'm part of all of us. We're looking for short-term solution, whereas these things are long-term. Those people seated around the table met every Sunday for 1 year. And they got that guy to join a political party. They got him to run for primaries. In fact, he almost won the primaries. When at the point at which he was going to win the primaries, somebody changed the rules of the game. But there were structures that were set up. So there was a strategic group which met every Sunday for over a year. I think for about 1.5 years, if my memory serves me right. Every Sunday we sat down, we strategized, we positioned, with everything was done in that room at that strategic level. But then there was another structure set up, the technical level, the IT people, the people that are good at mobilization also. So we formatted them as well and organized them. Then there was the third level, the administrative level, the field people, the people who are in charge of mobilizing and all those kinds of things. So you need those three structures. Now, what the strategic team did was that they were in charge of the money. They were the ones who put the money together. The technical people put together the technical knowledge, and the mobilizing people did the field work. So we need to identify people who have money and can point to a candidate that they want to be, say, governor or to be senator or whatever position you decide, and then meet regularly and support that candidate and come up with the money and the structure and everything. I also know that that group, for example, facilitated the emergence of one particular governor in Nigeria. It was on that table that everybody brought out their checkbook and wrote a check of 1 million naira each. That's the first money that candidate got. And they went on to win. In fact, that group that I'm talking about went on to control elections in about 3 or 4 states, if not 5 states, because they were networked. So it's high time that the elites network. So I need to sit down and have a network meeting with the Pastor Ituah, who is meeting with the Pastor so-and-so or Mr. So-and-so, Mr. So-and-so. Around that table, there were about 12 people to 15 people. I can't remember. I was the youngest in the team, And when I told them, when they asked me, they said, we don't want you to consult for us. We want you to join us. And that's how I got to know those people. But I was shocked that those people the dedication and it was total dedication. In fact, at a point, they borrowed money in order to finance the project. And when it came to implementation of things like billboards and everything, people gave up the billboards of their corporations and everything for a few days, for a few months and everything in order to leverage the image of the candidate. And then I remember us getting a helicopter for the candidate to descend into the arena for primaries and things like that. I'm saying it's possible. All it takes is organization. So let's identify those who will run. Let's identify those who will sponsor, and let everybody meet together and be committed to sponsoring that person and getting the person through. There is no party that you can't have a leverage buyover or buyout in Nigeria. Every party in Nigeria has been bought out. Every party in Nigeria that has been management buying, leverage buyout, all sorts of things. So it's possible. A party can be hijacked. What the party structure is looking for most of the time is leadership. Another thing that the elites don't want to have is commitment. You see, what the local party people did in this case was that they fixed meetings for the election, for the primaries, for the ward meetings. They fixed it on Monday morning. So when the candidate complains that how can he come for this ward meeting on Monday morning, he has his business to run and everything, they asked him, is either you are dedicated or you are not dedicated. So they deliberately fixed that meeting. And sometimes to take over a ward, all it takes is just buying plastic chairs for the people to sit on. So this thing is not that difficult, and everything. It just takes a network of people who are networking their brain, networking their resources, and networking their assets. That's all it takes. And then there's a strategic direction and a commitment and dedication. So that's the answer to the question.
Okay, so Leke, which group are you putting together now? Yes, now you have the answer. So you tell the cards. Let's put a group together. Let's see what we can. I mean, you spoke so well, so I'm going to hold you to your word. I think if you name both the people who have the check, so put down their names. Let's go and look for a candidate or two and see how we're going to drive this thing. Okay. All right. So we'll take a few more questions and then we really will have to close. My goodness, 6:45. Okay. So Abiola, I'm going to take your question or comment next. After you, Yemi, then Sarume, that's Mr. Kenzwa. I see your picture. And then Bayo Balogun. Just those four. Akenzwa and Bayo Balogun are from.
There's a Yemi and Fems.
Yes, Fems. Who is Fems? Fems. Okay, maybe we'll take a Fems. Only then you've spoken. Maybe we'll take you last. 6 people all together. 30 seconds each to say. Okay, go ahead, please.
All right, I'll try and keep it really short. Thank you, Pastor Ituah and Leke. Really good to hear some of the ideas you and other speakers have put forward. I think some of you remember me as Abiola Falashe, but now I'm Makinwa. I just wanted to throw something into this discussion about building a social agenda, and that is the criminal justice system. It's broken. It is being held hostage by the elite, and it's encouraging impunity. And I think this is one of the things that has to be taken aboard as you try and design a social agenda. And I feel that we have very interesting developments in the West, where the brokenness of the traditional approach to criminal justice has been addressed. And you have companies like Siemens, like Goldman Sachs, like Halliburton, like Total, going to self-police, self-report, and put in place hard and soft controls to prevent corruption from occurring in their companies. This is private sector, self-interest driven. How do they do this? They've changed the incentive structure. So we need to stop this unholy alliance between West and North and South, where the North is a safe harbor for illicit theft of the capital we need for development, where children, where schools, hospitals, jobs are a safe harbor, so that we do not have to create those facilities in Nigeria. So I will say that we can pick up from the lessons that of what's going on in the West, where they have changed the incentive structure and created a criminal enforcement framework where companies in their own interest take certain steps that have changed the way they do business. The private sector has a huge role to play. Now, let me just make this very practical and I'll stop because Pastor Ituah gave me just 30 seconds. Somebody once asked me, so how do you change incentive structures? I said, you must realize that every time a company goes to self-report, and we're talking about huge amounts of money, this is not chicken change. There are names that are named. There are people that are mentioned. And it is not that hard to put a block, an economic block, on all the gatekeepers that you meet. So for example, somebody's name, a lawyer came up, you put a block on all his assets, prevent no visa possibilities. His kids can't get a visa. He can't go abroad for hospital treatment unless he collaborates and tells and gives some information that leads to the next person on the chain. So you create the incentive to cooperate with enforcement. And here we need to really think out of the box and stop relying on a broken criminal justice system and look at what is happening in the West and take some from these lessons and create ways of bypassing these compromise structures, which actually only serve to perpetuate impunity. So we can come up with all sorts of nice ideas, but the fact is that these fundamental pillars of how a democracy functions, unless we, make sure that they are not compromising the system, then we are, as somebody once, I think somebody said, we're wasting our time. No, I don't think we're wasting time. I think having this kind of discussion is already not wasting our time. It's a good thing. But I think I just wanted to talk, to throw this into the mix about the criminal justice system and how we need to maybe take some lessons from the approaches that are going on in the West. They have given up on a system that we are still utilizing. And we need the change more than it is needed in the West. Thank you. That was more than 30 seconds. My apologies.
Thank you. Of the criminal justice now.
Thank you, Biola. Pastor Ituah, Biola was my classmate in law. When I was used to be a lawyer, but she's a professor of law, actually, one of the most brilliant in our class then, still brilliant, And so Biola, hi.
Hi, thanks. Very kind of you. And please.
So I think to put together a paper on how we can domesticate what you suggested into a system and how we can use it for reform when the time comes.
Jolly good. Is Biola in Nigeria or is she out of Nigeria? I'm sure she's not in Nigeria.
Why
she's not in
the way she's looking, I'm not sure she's in this Nigeria. Biola, come back and come and look the way we look in Nigeria. So I can't hear you.
Hey, good evening, Pastor, and good evening to everyone who's spoken. Mr. Leke, good evening. It's a pleasure to meet you finally. And I align with everything that has been said, especially the network that Mr. Leke outlined in his penultimate comment. But I want to focus more on, because I work in social impact space, as you know, Pastor, and I want to focus on what every one of us can do in the next 6 months to 1 year. I believe so much in Nigeria. I spoke to a gentleman yesterday who's in his 20s. He's designing digital beehives. He's trying to breed bees that will be producing honey, but they don't sting. I spoke to a lady 2 weeks ago, also in her 20s. She set up a school which is offering alternative accommodation to young children. I mean, these are children between 5 and 12 years old, whose parents couldn't send them to school or can afford education. She set up a mini school for them in an uncompleted building somewhere in Ikorodu. We drove all the way down to go and have a look and see what she's doing. The kids were so excited, had a presentation, and these were promising. They had so little, but they were so excited, so joyful. A few weeks ago, I spoke to another. I could go on and list stories of young people who are doing incredible things from Sokoto to Adamawa to Ibadan to Anambra. So there's hope. A lot of these young people, in the next 6 months to 1 year, and I know that we have a lot of very prominent people on the call, I think that another way that we can begin to drive the change we look for, whilst the government is not responding as they ought to, whilst we're not influencing at that level, I agree that there's so much we can do with party politics. I think there's so much we can do with engaging with the political structures that we have, the ward level, the local government, the councillorship. How many of young people who are actually capable, who are actually able to do this, get in there and make a change, are we supporting? How many people in our churches, our faith-based organizations, in our local communities, how many of these social enterprises that we have all across Nigeria that have promising and talented young people, visionaries, who are doing incredible things with the little resources they have? We have incredibly resourceful young people. And I'm here to say to everyone that because we have these people, Nigeria cannot fail. But what I'm also offering is that there is a way that we can begin to engage this. And I like the network that you spoke to, Mr. Alder, when you said, a group of people came together in a room. I think if we have a lot more of that replicated across board, we would have more support. Every time that you go to, you look at all of the social enterprises around, funding is largely from international donors. How many people locally in Nigeria, prominent people who are capable, who have the resources, are funding these projects, are funding these initiatives? And these are young, responsible people. When you think about the books, they have their books right. They have everything right because they're able to secure funding internationally. How could we start encouraging them? How could we start promoting a lot of the things they're doing? Because as we think about sustainability of their initiatives and scalability of their initiatives, a lot of the work that government is supposed to be doing, these guys are already doing in their small spheres, in their small locations. They're already doing what government should be doing. So whilst we're trying to engage government at that level, while we're trying to influence government to do the right thing, how can we also engage these younger people at their level in their local communities to say, we're encouraging you, scale these initiatives, scale these programs, whether it's in education, whether it's in agriculture, wherever it is, tech. There are a lot of tech startups coming up. There are a lot of tech innovations coming up. How can we begin to support them? And sometimes we think that, we need millions of naira, we need billions of naira. It starts with just crowdfunding. It starts with these networks that Mr. Leke was referring to. How do we proliferate these networks and begin to say, we're committed? And I like how you emphasized commitment, Mr. Alder, and I agree with you. How committed are we? We have enlisted all the problems. We've enlisted what is not working. I've come here to show you that there's another side that is actually working. And we have, not just me, but a lot of these people, we have access to these people. Right now, I have 200 people on a list who are doing incredible things as innovators, not even just in Nigeria, but across West Africa. Other organizations have such people within their networks. How can we that are on this call and the people within our networks begin to support, begin to promote? The more we scale these initiatives, the more people we are beginning to get. And ultimately, as I round off, the more people that we're able to impact, because when we think about politics and the way it's run in Nigeria, or the way it's always been run, it's people who feel they're cared for. So if the politicians give people food, let's stop saying that people will sell their vote for food. It's real, the hunger is real, the problems and the issues are real. It's easy for us to sit down and say, we can afford 3 square meals, 2 square meals. There are people that are in deep, abject poverty. They don't have choices. Their choices are limited. And so if their choices are limited, we don't have a right to judge them when they compromise and they sell their votes for just a bag of rice or for an adire that is 3,000 or 5,000. It's not right. So I think that we can begin to say, what can we do? Because there's so much we can do. And I want us to focus a lot more on that. Let's ignore for a moment what is out of our control. And let's begin to focus on what is within our control. And I'm saying it again, Pastor, as I round up, there's so much working. There's so much working with young people. Over 200, just with the organization that I'm with, and there's several others that are credible, credible social enterprises, credible nonprofits that are making impact. They're making real changes, and you can see the records. You can see the impact stories. You can reach the people who have been affected, who have been impacted in a positive way. So it's not like they're just cooking up things or they are building castles in the air. These people are reachable, and you can measure the impact of the interventions and initiatives they have. Nigeria can stand. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Pastor, and thank you to everyone on the call.
I hear your passion. I hear your passion. And I think you and I should sit down and discuss, and let's meet these people and see what to do. Let me take on Bayo Balogun and then Yemi. Kenny, I think you came a bit late. I saw you came a bit late. We're about to round up. In fact, we've extended beyond our time. Maybe you can text in your question or your comment so that I can just mention it on the platform, and then I'll just close. I think we'll take Bayo and Yemi, and then I'll just close at that. Is that okay? So, Bayo, Balogun, quickly, your hands are still up. If you don't speak now, I'll give your slot to Kenny in a minute.
All right, I'm here, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, sir. I really appreciate it. Okay, this is the question I have. So I'm thinking that a lot has been said about the things we can do and organization and all that, and it's a lot to learn and to take in. So my question is, what's the role of the intangibles, like the culture, the national orientation, values of the people in when it comes to national development? Do they have anything? Do they have a role to play when it comes to national development? And if they do, the next thing would be, how can we promote, the values that we want and the cultures that we want to see, in our society, so that we can be able to develop the nation? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Bayo. Thank you. Thank you. Yemi, quickly, let me hear your comments.
Thank you. Good evening, sir. Good evening, everyone. Okay, just a few things. I was typing some things in the chat, but just wanted to highlight them so they're not lost. We've talked a bit about, and thank you, Sir Rume, for sharing your stories of hope. Quite encouraging. But as we've said over and over, we have a leadership challenge. The private sector can do a lot, but there's a limit to what the private sector can do, and we cannot entrepreneur our way out of those problems. We call it political economy because the politics drives the economy. So we need to pay attention to partisan politics, and we need to invest in that area the same way we invested in the private sector. The social enterprises that Sir Rume was talking about, a lot of us spend a lot of our money doing things that government should do. So health, education, wash, all of these things will continue to pour money down the drain, literally, if we don't equip the structure, the organ that can solve these problems at scale. The only organ anywhere in the world that can solve health, that can solve education at scale is government, both in terms of providing an enabling environment or actually providing those social services. We talk about government, we talk about voting, and a big gap that people talked a lot about as well is also knowledge. A government or the quote unquote, those who want to perpetuate themselves in power will not invest in opening people's minds. So again, we have a role to play here in actually educating citizens on their rights, their responsibilities, and even how government works. Someone talked earlier about people not understanding, I think it's Mrs. Adelabu, even just what a democracy means, the power that you have as a citizen because we operate in a democracy. There were issues raised around independent candidacy, electronic transmission. Independent candidacy is dependent on our constitution. It's not allowed, so we can't have it unless we do, as Mr. Alder said, the hard work of changing the constitution to ensure that we can have an independent candidate. Electronic transmission is part of the current electoral act that the National Assembly tried to remove, and people started talking about it and they had to put it back. But they've also there were 3 other edits, I believe, that have been identified that they've amended in the Electoral Act. Number 1, they've increased financing. I believe for presidency, it went from 1 billion to 15 billion. For governor, it's now you can spend up to 5 billion. Now, if we allow them to continue to raise the bar in how much money they can spend on these elections, the elections will continue to not make sense. So the numbers are high, there's no enforcement, so we spend money as we want. And then lastly, what was the other point I wanted to make? I also just wanted to talk, about, so sort of moving forward as we discuss these issues, there's a huge role that religious institutions can play when we talk about stomach infrastructure that politicians leverage on. We do a lot in our different, I'm a Christian, so I'll speak to that. We do a lot as churches. I believe Alder Consulting did a report a while ago about the different charitable works of different religious organizations. And those are platforms that we can leverage in terms of influencing minds and using those things to educate. So as you are giving out rice and chicken, you are also letting them know who their senator is and who they can call that their gutter in front of their house or in their community is bad. So that we use these platforms of social services that we do in different ways to also educate citizens, such that when it's time to vote, they understand what it is that they're voting for. I don't know if anybody is paying attention to the numbers. INEC has started releasing weekly reports on the voter registration numbers. And a particular one that's of interest is in Osun State. Within a week, 67,000 new people have registered in Osun. Now, Osun has elections, but the elections come after Anambra, it comes after Ekiti. But APC and PDP are actively mobilizing to register people. So they've set up internet centers with a generator with computers so people can register online because they know what is at stake. What are we doing to do that for those who want different people, different parties, different individuals to have people who can vote for them come election day? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yemi. Leke, I'm going to ask you to please respond to all these questions. And then even though you've said it a few times, what you do if you were president, what you do if you're president, I want you to give us what you think will be a real way out of this leadership problem that we have in Nigeria and how we can even resolve it in 2023. What are the action points, the low-hanging fruits, the actionable things that we can do as a people to ensure that come 2023, we really give ourselves a chance to get the very best in leadership in Nigeria.
Okay. Thank you, Pastor Ituah, and thank you, Yemi. That was a good contribution. Yemi never lets me rest, you know. Okay. Let me start with Sarume. Yemi is quite right. There's only so much that the private sector can do, and if you've ever tried to do things on behalf of government, it can be frustrating and it can be limiting. I can assure you that Alder Consulting has done a lot trying to do things, but you get to the point in which you need government. You need the cooperation of government. And that's another level entirely. You know, we've been down that route and we know what it takes, okay? But you need to do something about the program you are running. Let's presume that you're able to put together a proposal, say to the Minister of Labor and Productivity or Minister of Youth or something. You have to be able to put that proposal together in which you're able to segment these 200 enterprises that are under your control. Now, those 200 enterprises, not all of them are needed for national development. Some are just there that they will provide employment for those who are running those enterprises. But that's not really what we need. What we need is to be able to scale those enterprises, identify the enterprises that have been scaled to earn Forex and can be scaled to provide employment, and then give those ones access to capital and access to expertise. That's what we need to do. So, but you need government to do that because there's only so much you can do. The enabling environment has to be right to do something. So again, you may decide that that is to be done at the state level, and the state may set up a fund that invests in those businesses and enterprises, not with a view to controlling them. They will not have controlling stakes so that they don't run it down. But they will have to exit at a certain point and at a certain price level. So that's something to consider. As far intangibles and things like national orientation and all those things, I chaff at such experiment, at such terminologies. It just sounds like Animal Farm. You know, when you hear national orientation, you know, it's a communist ideological system and all those kinds of things. And that troubles me. The mistake we made was that we took civics out of secondary school and out of primary school. We need to take it back into those places. And we need to be able to create a curriculum for national development and the development, national identification of the people with the state. That's what we need to do. So I see all the things that National Orientation Agency is trying to do, and it boils down to propaganda and to brainwashing the people and, saying all sorts of things on TV that actually drum down the intelligence of the people and don't make them feel that they are stakeholders in the country. And the truth is that the national orientation is not really at the level of the people are followers. They're saying things. So where the national orientation should begin is in government. And when government is serious about those things, the people will follow. For example, when Governor Fashola was in town, you could not drive against traffic. And Lagos State is doing a lot in that direction now. But I remember Governor Fashola arresting, I think, a naval official also for driving on BRT lane. The people saw that and felt empowered. Now, what you've had in Nigeria is individual sovereignty, in which people are so sovereign in themselves that they feel they can do whatever they like and get away with it. And that has been happening. There's a lot of impunity and all those things. So we need to go back to what Biola was saying, in which our institutions are built. We need to have a strategy for developing our institutions. But we need to get one person into power, just one person into power who will do right by the nation and for the people. We need to identify the person and all align behind that person to get things done. As per what we can do between now and 2023, some things are already late, in my opinion. I think we need to strategize going forward. There are issues around the structure of the nation. There are issues around security. There are issues around social justice. But I still think that this group needs to go beyond what it is right now and become a platform, a coalition of something that can put out ideas, run adverts in the newspapers and all those things. Because you never can tell who says these things, and everything. You never can tell how serious these things can be and be able to package those ideas and sell those ideas that this is how to move the nation forward. Call it an African Leadership Series group, whatever you like, you call it. But let all the resources that are in this group be coalesced and put together. And for example, Yemi is very strong in advocacy in the social justice space and the advocacy space. And she's very good at all those INEX spaces. We have Professor Bola Biola there, we have Pam, we have Pastor Ituah. I mean, the amount of resources that are available to this group per square meter is unimaginable. The amount of neurons that are running is unimaginable. So this, Pastor Ituah, you need to organize this group somehow so that it goes beyond your joining to doing, and everything. And I think we need to do that. I think the first thing is to take a register of those who belong to the group, look at their capacities, define a vision for the group, and then look at what is the low-hanging fruit that we can tackle. You don't need to go for presidency and say for now, because it's too late to be running for president. However, you can say, okay, we want to elect a senator, or we want to organize a school, of politics, or we want to apprentice the people that are running to politics with the political parties and all those things. A few years ago, I did a program called Governance 500, and then I did Enterprise 500. The whole idea of Enterprise 500 was to develop 500 enterprises who can support 500 people who are going into government. And we invited politicians, people from public and it was a very successful program. We couldn't take it further because those are initiatives that Alder in itself, on its own, cannot continue to finance. We tried to get people to partner with us, but the churches didn't see, we were too far ahead of the curve. So those are the kind of things that I think we need to do, with a view to 2023. Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much, Leke. And I think you're really giving us food for thought as to how to move the group forward. And we've gotten quite a few ideas. We're going to try and create a platform where we can all interact. The vision is to try and put in place good governance in Nigeria, to find a way to put in place good governance in Nigeria and then do it on a step-by-step basis. So maybe the first step is to come together with a slogan, with something and put it in the public. Maybe the second step is to make sure that INEC does what it's supposed to do, and so on and so forth. So it'd be nice for you to please run by me or run through me whatever you think this group can over time to really fulfill and achieve that purpose, get the elites more involved in this thing, and make it impossible, worst of the class, to lead the rest of the pack. That's really what I would think would be a value for all the energy and effort that we've put in, if this is achievable over time. And if people are ready, we're ready to go the long haul to make this possible. It'd be nice to make some kind of impact in 2023. We're still trying to see how to do that, but we're being realistic also. So if anybody has any ideas to speak to this, please let me know. My email is ituahpi@yahoo.com, ituahpi@yahoo.com, and we'll also establish a platform. We'll also try and do some registration to formalize, and then have access to some bank account or the other where we can have funding to do what we need to do. But simple little steps that we can take on a day-by-day basis to make sure we're making progress. Leke, I want to thank you very, very much for always responding to my call whenever I call. You've never turned me down before, and I'm sure you're not going to do that ever. Like a true King's College boy, when the call is sounded, almost answer here. You know. Thank you for that. I want to thank all who have spoken today. Ibrahim, thank you very much. Your contribution is still reverberating in my ears. He spoke on conflict resolution as panacea for economic development or national development, something along those lines a couple of weeks ago. And it was so well spoken, well delivered, well articulated, and so real that a lot of people took a lot of takeaways from there. And we'll see also how to put that in as we go along. I want to thank the young people, Bayo Balogun and Sarume, Younger Kenzwa, for their invaluable contributions. Abiola, thank you very, very much. My auntie Funke Adebulu, God bless you. Charles, always good to hear from you. Thank you so much for your contributions. Falabi, thank you. Bambo, I see you every week. One day we're going to get you to speak. Yeah, one of these days, Bambo. So get ready. We want to thank everyone for being on the platform. I want to wish you a very good evening and a wonderful weekend coming up. Reverend Oyebode, God bless you also. Olumide, my classmate from primary school, thank you so much. Yemi Adamalekun, when is your self-exile going to end? We want you back in Nigeria. Tola Oni, thank you very much. God bless you. Alaba, my cousin, God be with you and God strengthen you. Always good to see you on the platform. Everyone else, good night. God bless you. Have a very wonderful weekend. Leke, we'll talk later. We have to take this, somehow.
And thank you for the opportunity. And thank you, everyone, for listening to my radical ideas.
Not radical, just correct.
My sister, thank you.
Good job, Leke.
This was not entertainment.
Thank you so much.
This was pure
facts.
Fact.
And wisdom.
Wisdom. Thank you, Auntie.
Facts and wisdom. Yes.
Bless
that was
you.
excellent. Leke Alder, that was excellent. I'm so happy I didn't miss it.
Kenny, we'll see you next week. Then you can ask your question. Titi, where's my
Yes, Pastor Ituah, thanks so much for, I'm looking forward for the next time I'll be able to answer my question. Ask my question and my perspective too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Mr. Leke Alder.